The mansion stood on a quiet hill overlooking the coastline, its white stone walls glowing beneath the evening sun. Every window reflected a life that most people only dreamed of. Luxury cars lined the driveway, priceless artwork decorated the halls, and every room carried the elegance of generations of success. Yet none of those things could fill the silence that echoed through the heart of Sienna Whitmore. At 21, Sienna had everything money could buy. She belonged to one of the wealthiest families in the country. Her father owned an international shipping company, while her mother was known for hosting grand charity events attended by influential people from around the world. Everyone believed Sienna's life was perfect. They were wrong. Behind every elegant smile was someone who longed for something genuine, someone who wished people would look beyond her family's fortune and see her for who she truly was. One autumn afternoon, Sienna accompanied her mother to a cultural fundraiser organized to help international students adjust to life in America. She had no interest in attending another formal event filled with endless speeches. But that day changed everything. While guests chatted over expensive meals, Sienna quietly slipped into the peaceful garden behind the venue. There, she noticed a young man helping an elderly volunteer carry several heavy boxes. No one had asked him to do it. He simply noticed someone needed help. The young man worked without expecting praise. Sweat covered his forehead, yet a calm smile never left his face. Something about him caught Sienna's attention. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He wasn't searching for wealthy connections. He simply cared. After placing the final box inside the storage room, he thanked the elderly volunteer before turning toward the garden. Their eyes met for only a second. He offered a polite nod. "Good evening." His voice was calm. Sienna smiled back. "Good evening." For a brief moment neither of them spoke. Finally she asked, "Do you volunteer here?" He shook his head. "I came from Africa a few months ago. I'm studying engineering while working part-time. They asked if anyone could help today, so I said yes." His answer surprised her. Most people at these events talked endlessly about themselves. He barely mentioned anything. "I'm Malik Adeyemi," he said warmly. "I'm Shenna." He smiled. "It's nice to meet you." No excitement crossed his face after hearing her famous last name.
No sudden curiosity.
No attempt to flatter her. He simply treated her like any other person. That alone made him different from everyone she knew. The event continued inside, but Sienna found herself returning to the garden several times, hoping their paths would cross again. Later that evening she saw Malik speaking with children who were painting small canvases. He laughed with them, encouraging each child regardless of whether the picture looked perfect. Watching him, Sienna couldn't stop smiling. Her best friend Cassidy eventually found her. "There you are." Sienna looked away from Malik. "I was just getting some fresh air." Cassidy followed her gaze. "Oh." A playful smile appeared. "So that's why you've been disappearing." "What do you mean?" "The engineering student." Sienna tried to hide her expression. "I just think he seems kind." Cassidy laughed softly. "I've known you since middle school. That look on your face means you're curious." Sienna didn't answer. Because Cassidy was right. For the first time in years, she truly wanted to know someone. Not because of business. Not because of family expectations. But because her heart felt unexpectedly calm whenever she saw him. The following week, Sienna couldn't stop thinking about the conversation in the garden. Instead of asking her family's assistants to investigate him, she decided to visit the community center again. She wanted every meeting to happen naturally. When she arrived, volunteers were preparing food packages for families in need. Across the room she noticed Malik organizing supplies. He looked up. Recognition appeared in his eyes. "Sienna." She smiled. "You remembered. You were kind." His answer made her laugh. "I thought I'd help today." He handed her a pair of gloves. "Then welcome to the team." For the next 3 hours they packed food boxes together. They talked about music, favorite books, childhood memories, dreams. Sienna discovered Malik had grown up respecting education because his parents believed knowledge could change lives. Malik discovered Sienna loved photography far more than expensive parties. The conversations felt effortless. Neither tried to impress the other. As the afternoon ended, light rain began falling outside. Volunteers hurried toward the entrance. Malik looked at the cloudy sky. "I forgot my umbrella." Sienna smiled. "I brought one." She opened it. For a few peaceful minutes they walked side by side beneath the same umbrella. The distance between them remained respectful, yet comfortable. Neither noticed the rain anymore. They were too busy talking. Before leaving, Malik thanked her. "I enjoyed today." "So did I." She hesitated. "Maybe we could volunteer together again next weekend." A warm smile crossed his face. "I'd like that." For the first time in a very long while, Sienna drove home feeling happier than she had in years. She wasn't thinking about luxury cars, or expensive jewelry, or business meetings. She was thinking about a young man whose kindness spoke louder than wealth ever could. But inside the Whitmore mansion, someone had quietly noticed the growing change in Sienna's behavior. Standing near the upstairs window, her father watched her smiling to herself as she entered the house. He had never seen that smile before, and although he didn't yet know who had placed it there, he intended to find out. The next morning, sunlight poured through the tall windows of the Whitmore mansion, but Sienna's attention wasn't on the beautiful view. Instead, she found herself looking at the small volunteer badge resting on her bedside table. For the first time, she was excited about something that had nothing to do with luxury or social status. Downstairs, the breakfast table was already set. Her father, Victor Whitmore, glanced over the morning newspaper before looking at his daughter. "You've been leaving the house more often lately." Sienna smiled politely. "I've been volunteering at the community center." Victor nodded, though his expression remained thoughtful. "That's good. Helping people builds character." For a moment, Sienna believed the conversation had ended. Then he calmly asked, "Have you met anyone interesting there?" The question caught her off guard. "A few nice people," she replied carefully. Victor studied her face for a second before returning to his coffee. "I hope you're choosing your friends wisely." Sienna didn't answer. Something told her her father had already noticed more than he was saying. A few days later, Sienna returned to the community center. The building buzzed with activity as volunteers prepared for a weekend neighborhood festival. Children laughed while decorating colorful banners. Families arranged tables filled with homemade food. Across the hall, Malik was repairing a broken wooden sign. When he noticed Sienna, his face brightened. "You came." "I said I would." He laughed. "I've learned that's something not everyone means." She smiled. "Then you'll have to get used to me keeping my promises." The two spent the afternoon working together. Sometimes they painted signs. Sometimes they carried supplies. Other times they simply talked while arranging decorations. Their conversations never felt forced. Malik spoke about his dream of becoming an engineer who designed affordable housing for families with limited incomes. "I don't just want a successful career," he said. "I want my work to improve someone's life." His words stayed with Sienna. She had met countless wealthy people. Very few spoke about helping others before helping themselves. "You think differently," she admitted. "My parents taught me that success means very little if you forget kindness." Sienna quietly looked away. Those words reminded her of something missing in her own world. As evening approached, the volunteers finally finished preparing the festival grounds. Everyone applauded each other's hard work. A local band began playing soft music nearby. Families gathered on the lawn, children chased bubbles through the air, and warm lights slowly illuminated the park. Sienna and Malik walked along a quiet pathway lined with trees. Neither hurried. The peaceful silence between them felt comfortable. "I've never told anyone this," Sienna said softly. Malik looked at her with quiet attention. "Sometimes I feel invisible." He frowned gently. "How can someone surrounded by so many people feel invisible?" "Because most people don't see me." She looked toward the distant lights. "They see my family's name, our money, our reputation." She smiled sadly. Very few people try to know the real Sienna. Malik stopped walking. "I'm glad I met the real Sienna." His words were simple, yet they carried more meaning than any compliment she had ever received. She looked into his eyes. For a brief moment, neither of them spoke. Then Sienna smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. "I'm glad I met you too." They continued walking side by side beneath the glowing lights, talking about their favorite movies, childhood memories, and the places they hoped to visit someday. There was no rush. No pressure. Only two young people discovering how naturally they enjoyed each other's company. Unfortunately, not everyone welcomed their growing friendship. Standing near the entrance of the festival, Victor Whitmore's longtime business associate, Graham Keller, had arrived to donate to the event. As he greeted organizers, his attention drifted toward the walking path. There, he saw Sienna laughing with Malik. His smile slowly disappeared. He quietly took out his phone. Without saying a word, he captured a photograph of them talking together. Later that evening, Graham entered Victor Whitmore's private office. "I think there's something you should see." Victor looked at the photograph. His expression hardened. "Who is he?" "One of the volunteers," Graham replied. "An engineering student." Victor placed the phone on his desk and stared silently out the window. He wasn't angry. Not yet. But he was determined to learn everything about the young man who had unexpectedly become part of his daughter's life. Meanwhile, Sienna had no idea that someone had begun watching from the shadows. For her, it had simply been another beautiful day. For someone else, it was the beginning of a plan that could change both their lives forever. The photograph remained on Victor Whitmore's desk long after everyone had gone home. The room was silent except for the ticking of an antique clock. Victor studied Malik's face once more. The young man didn't appear arrogant or careless. In fact, there was a quiet confidence in his expression that reminded Victor of someone he had known many years ago. Still, as a father, he refused to make assumptions. The next morning, he asked his head of security, Nathan Brooks, to meet him. "Nathan, I'll only gather public information. That's all I want." Meanwhile, Malik's day began very differently. His apartment was small, with plain furniture and a single bookshelf filled with engineering textbooks. Before leaving for class, he called his mother overseas. Her smiling face appeared on the screen. "How are you, my son?" "I'm doing well, Mom." "Are you eating properly?" Malik laughed. "You ask me that every week." "Because you'll always be my son." After a few more minutes, he ended the call with a grateful smile. No matter how busy life became, his family remained his greatest source of strength. That afternoon, Sienna invited Malik to visit a public art exhibition downtown. "It's free," she said with a grin. "And before you ask, yes, we are still keeping our volunteer budget." Malik chuckled. "I wasn't going to ask." The exhibition featured paintings, photography, and sculptures created by local artists. One photograph caught Sienna's attention. It showed an old wooden bridge stretching across a quiet river at sunrise. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Malik stood beside her. "It reminds me of something." "What?" He smiled. "A bridge connects two places that seem far apart." She looked at him. "And sometimes people are like that too." His words lingered in her mind. They came from completely different worlds. Yet somehow, every conversation brought them closer. After leaving the gallery, they walked toward a nearby park. Street musicians filled the air with gentle melodies. Children laughed while chasing pigeons across the grass. Without planning it, Sienna and Malik found themselves sitting on a wooden bench overlooking a peaceful lake. "I have a confession," Sienna admitted. Malik raised an eyebrow. "What is it?" "I've never had a friendship that felt this easy." He smiled warmly. "Neither have I." For a moment, neither spoke. The silence wasn't awkward. It was comfortable. A cool breeze carried the scent of fresh flowers through the park. Sienna turned toward him. "I'm really glad we met." Malik looked into her eyes. "So am I." Slowly, he reached out his hand. Not to make a grand gesture. Only to ask a quiet question without words. Sienna smiled and gently placed her hand in his. For a few peaceful moments, they simply sat together, smiling as they watched the sunlight dance across the lake. There was nothing dramatic. Nothing rushed. Just two hearts beginning to trust each other. Across the street, however, someone had been watching. Nathan Brooks lowered the camera he had been using, not to spy on private conversations, but to confirm that the young man matched the person Victor had asked about. When he returned to the Whitmore estate that evening, he handed Victor a short report. His name is Malik Adeyemi. Victor quietly listened. Engineering student. Excellent academic record. Volunteers regularly. Works part-time at a local bookstore. No history of legal trouble. Victor looked surprised. Nathan continued. Everyone I spoke with described him the same way. How? Honest. Respectful. Hardworking. Victor leaned back in his chair. For the first time since seeing the photograph, his concerns softened slightly. Still, another question remained. Was Malik interested in Sienna? Or was he interested in the Whitmore fortune? Victor knew only time would answer that. A few days later, Sienna received exciting news. The community center planned a weekend charity project in a quiet mountain town several hours away. Volunteers would spend 2 days helping restore a small public library that had been damaged during a recent storm. When Malik heard about the trip, he smiled. Looks like we'll be painting walls instead of packing food boxes. Sienna laughed. I've never painted a library before. Then we'll learn together. Neither of them realized that this simple volunteer trip would become the turning point of their story. Because far from the city, far from the comfort of the Whitmore mansion, a hidden truth was waiting to reveal itself, one that would test their trust, their courage, and the growing bond between them.